Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
My goodness, I love technical difficulties.
Yeah. Is it another take two morning for us?
Another take two morning.
Some technical snags. We got a little audio popping and crackling.
Yeah.
And our first run live had no audio.
Yeah,
so.
and we're on our second soundboard. We've been doing this for a minute.
Yeah.
And so we killed one.
Yeah.
And then I think that we've officially killed this one.
It seems.
And so it's time to buy a new soundboard. And we actually, there are two different ones. And I was like, I want to go back to the old one because this one has so many buttons and knobs, and I'm not a sound person. I do the best I can.
Right.
But the other one was just super, super easy to navigate. So,
well, shall we get to our topic?
I think that we should let's just drive right in. We don't need to talk about all the stuff that's happening right now.
No, not this time. We'll just get down to the stuff. We got a lot of stuff to do today, so we better get on to our business.
We have a lot to do today.
Yeah, and we got some final prep for we're hosting an event this weekend. So here's the deal: we got numbers today on the subject of portfolio performance, and this all ties back to an article that I wrote back in August of 2020. It appeared in the BHPH dealer magazine. So I fished that out whenever this number started coming back into the conversation in our V8 meetings. And I'm finding that the conversation with dealers about, because I brought the number, presented it to the groups and said, what do you think? Does the number mean anything to you? Is it a number that's significant for you? Is it relevant for your month in and month out portfolio performance? And the reaction's been mixed. I mean, I think some are just not quite sure what it can mean yet, but it's certainly not as complex. And the way I think about it is, you don't need any kind of high degree in analytics or whatever to be able to calculate this number. You walk to your desk, you run your number in your software. And so we're really just comparing two numbers, Michelle. I can go ahead and get the slide on the screen and let folks start to have a look at what it is. It's basically collected principal across the date range, whatever date range that you pick, and it's collected principal as a ratio of gross charge-off principal. So let me clarify what gross is. Gross is the amount of the customer's principal balance at the time the customer quit paying and then it ultimately was charged off, right? So that's going to be a gross charge-off. And just for some of you that are on a certain software, if you're on Frazier, you have to add two numbers together. Like they give you a net number and you have to add to that the line item, I think in Frazier is called vehicles taken back. Okay. So you add that number and now you're back to gross. Just keep in mind, you're trying to get to the number that whatever the customer's account balance would have been at the time it charged off.
So those of you who are watching on video,
or on audio.
Those of you who are watching on video, you get to see the graph.
Okay.
Those of you who are just on audio, please go to our YouTube channel, Jim and Michelle Rhodes / the Octane Group, to see the graph. So I want to make a couple of comments about what it is that we're looking at. First off, there are a few of these, each bar represents a dealer. There are a few of these dealers that are like, whoa. And I want everyone that is listening to understand that the data used in these are validated.
Right.
We recognize the importance of comparing apples to apples for one thing. So, and like Jim said, working with Frazier and others, there is no just set way across DMSs to come up with this. Yeah. This is, and so as we work with more dealers on different softwares, that we become more familiar with where to pull things from and what to take out in order to get to these kind of numbers, because it is really, really important when you're having a conversation anywhere and they're talking about benchmarks, they're talking about, whatever it is, any number that a dealer should be looking at, is that with people that have been in the industry for a long time, it's like, well, are they lying?
Right.
Or, well, are they looking at the right thing or whatever?
Yeah.
So just so you know, when with the numbers that are up here, that this is validated, this is clean, as clean
so
as we can get it.
let me explain what she means
Yeah.
by validated. We just spot check the stuff. The dealers report the numbers, but we ask the numbers to be verified to calculate to within plus or minus 1% deviation.
Yes.
So what I mean by that is we knew the balance at the close of the prior month. We now know new financed principal minus collected principal minus charge off principal and any other adjustments to principal. And when those things are added together, we should be plus or minus 1% open to close. And so so if it's not, they send in reports, right? And we double check those reports and try to find out what might be missing. So, or they get access to the software. That's the other way they can validate. But but she's right. These are numbers that we have, gone to reasonable effort to confirm. And so what that means is the numbers become more relevant when we can all have confidence, right, in what we're looking at. And then the other piece is this number is super simple for anybody to get to. Most any software, like I said, one, you have a little thing to add two things together.
Yeah.
But I chose this because, we do some calculations that are a little more sophisticated and kind of have some deeper numbers to them. But with this one, I just backed out and said, from a portfolio performance standpoint, if I'm not in a dealer group and I just want to know kind of what should I be looking at to know if my portfolio is performing well, this would be a good place to start.
So these numbers are for as long as the dealer has been in the V8 program, and we started. We passed our year anniversary of launching into the regular outside of beta. This is as much data in 2024 strung together and percentages created from that.
Correct. And most of these dealers on the screen have a full 12 months.
Okay.
There are a few that aren't the whole year, but that doesn't matter because you're just comparing the ratio across a range.
Yeah.
Okay?
And so these are also let's just ask that percentage. Let's again clarify what the percentage is. And we range on this anywhere from 93% all the way up to 574%.
Right.
That's a huge disparity, but it's a massive. And I guess, you put on the far right, it's like, what is the average?
The group average of this particular pool of dealers came in at 206.
Yeah,
so
it would be
let me explain
interesting
that
if
number.
you took out the highest and took out the lowest, where that would be, because I would imagine it would be around 170. Maybe.
I don't know. Why would you take out the high and low though? I think in this case we're just given.
These are just.
If I took out the high, people would know what was possible.
What's possible, and
right?
that's the thing, is because it's not an anomaly. Those you're looking at this is like, that is an anomaly. It is not an anomaly.
Yeah, it's not.
Not an anomaly.
I think one of the things we're enjoying about that situation is that we're able to learn from this particular dealership what they do differently and what helps them convert their portfolio so successfully. It's still a poor credit consumer. It's still
the same
pool
customer.
of customers that we're doing in any buy here, pay here, lease here, pay here operation. So I think those are all things to consider here. But yeah, I think let me make sure people understand that, and let's just talk about the rate, the average for a minute. When that says that the group average is 206%, another way to say that would be that for every dollar that the dealers charge off, they collect $2.06 of principal. Okay. So it's, when I say 206%, it's like that is right.
So you're looking at like the 93 for every dollar they're charging off. This dealer, not just on a single contract. This is for all contracts in the last year.
Yeah.
That there's one there that's collecting less.
Right. They're charging off.
They're charging off more principal than they're collecting.
So that's why I say, this kind of comes into what I call farm boy logic. I grew up on a farm, and I've had one Excel class as an adult, in a Votech class. So this is not super sophisticated, finance analytics. This is just simple ratios from any software. And I think for me, as just kind of the farm boy logic piece, is you step back and you look at this. Well, aren't we in the business of creating portfolios? And isn't the plan to put that in the bank?
Yeah.
And obviously, so when we just go super simple and zoom out and go wide view, This to me is a good number that anybody
Yeah.
can get to. And now at 206% for this small pool of dealers, you've got something to
Yeah.
go back and measure. And so dealers can easily walk and look at this number themselves today and see, you know, what their January looked like. I think you ought to look at a longer range. I would
Yeah.
say at least 3 months, and more like 6 to 12 months is probably a better number to look at for
So
this.
you mentioned something about bank, and there's one of the things when we're bringing a new person into this industry and to buy here, pay here, especially if they're an independent dealer or they're a franchise dealer or whatever, is that the paradigm shift is you are not a car dealer, you're a bank.
Right.
So the car dealer is just, you know, you happen to have what people want to buy there, but you're a bank. And to you know, we listen to, you know, there's a lot of dealers out there that are car guys, and they just look at whole numbers. It's like, how much overall have I collected?
Yeah.
And banks don't look at it that way. It's like, what have I collected in interest and what have I collected in principal? And they're not the same thing.
Right.
And so this is just looking only at principal,
Right.
only like that whole amount that you put on that sticker on the car. It's, you know, X 10 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
How much of that money did you actually collect?
Sort of.
And-
I just got to be careful about having dealers think about it as a single contract. It's like the whole pool of contracts across all the contracts that we're managing in the portfolio across a range of time. It's just simply a measurement of, you know, you think about principal in that example that I gave. You add money to your portfolio how? Well, by financing new cars, and so whatever the note is, you know, if you buy a car for $11,000, put $1,000 down, not to count fees and everything, you know, you'd have a $10,000 note. So this is the part that we're measuring, is just saying all those notes in the portfolio, like how well. So there are two ways that money leaves that portfolio, right? It either just general speaking, most categories are going to be, you're either going to sell a paper, right? We're not counting on that stuff. If we're talking about self-managed portfolios, money's going to leave the portfolio two ways. It's either going to get collected and get put in the bank, or it's going to get charged off. These are the two numbers that we're looking at.
So I have a question then. The goal should be to collect all your principal.
Yeah.
So how does anyone get over 100% on that?
To collect 100% of their principal? Well, you would just have to have no customers charge off. I mean, in that period of time.
But so then how are we getting to 700 or 574?
So all that means is that dealer has very few charge-offs, right? Because all we're comparing is the amount of principal that was collected to the amount of principal that was charged off. And across that long range of many months, and this dealer's got 12 months of data.
Okay.
So what you've got is across all the months of 2024, that dealer collected almost $6 of principal for every dollar they charged off.
Okay.
Right.
So if a dealer is never charging anything off and collecting all of their principal, what would that percentage be?
You can't do a ratio when there's one of the numbers is zero.
Okay.
Right. So you got to have some in order to have a ratio. You can't, you got to have a measurement. So you can't do zero, but we're in the buy here, pay here business. Nobody has zero charge off. So it's kind of a moot point, but it's like, the point is that we definitely want to make sure that we look at this across a broad enough range of time where, you know, obviously on any given month, you may not have any charge offs, and then this number's not relevant. So you look at a broader range, and this is just ultra simple way to say, and I think I'm trying not to influence the dealers in our group. In V8, we create a forum. We allow them to talk, and I present the numbers and let them talk back and forth and see what they conclude. I'm not necessarily trying to teach them anything. These are experienced operators. So I'm simply putting the numbers in front of them and letting them tell me, does this number mean anything to you? Would you consider it relevant? Right? Is it something that if your number was worse than a dealer sitting next to you or in the virtual room next to you, does that mean anything to you? What does that tell you? And so that's kind of where I'm coming from when I look at these numbers is, you know, what is the relevance of it, if anything? And, you know, obviously I form my own opinions about all the years of working with portfolios, and you know, I'm a cash flow guy first. And so I'm looking at the cash flows and what is the yield. And so this is all stuff that drives the cash yield. Like, you know, when that money charges off, it doesn't go in the bank. Do we recover repo? Sure, but it might not be in cash because we might recycle it and put it back on our inventory. So it might not affect the bank account today until we get a down payment on the replacement repo. But I think that's getting a little too. That's what I call getting caught up in the wiring. Right. Credit John Gifford from coaching from years ago. When I first got into the buy here, pay here business, he was a coach back in Florida. And that was a phrase that I heard him use a lot was you get caught up in the wiring, you get tangled up in the stuff that is, and so today we're kind of zooming out and say, let's not get caught up in the wiring. Let's back out and just say, hey, in this simple number, it's just a question of, am I putting more money in the bank?
So the number actually is, it's a measurement of how well you're collecting.
Yeah.
It's how effective your collections is, because the higher the percentage is, the less amount overall on your portfolio that you're charging off. And there's that's.
I would say if I had this number, if I were a dealer and I just want a super simple number, and here we are on a podcast, people talk to us about free coaching. Why did you give us free coaching? Well, because there's a ton of dealers out there that need some help, and I want to see them be successful, and I want to see them help more customers, and I want to see them be able to survive in their business, because this industry is needed. Okay, so folks in these communities need dealers who provide this kind of service. So if you just based on that alone, I would say if I'm a dealer out there that you'll never hire us for coaching, I would ask you to go to your desk and run this number, create yourself a simple spreadsheet, and look at it on at least a 3-month rolling average. Because when you see the changes in that number, it's an indication that your portfolio, it's at least one indication. I recommend they would look at a handful, but it's at least one quick indication that gives a feel for, is our portfolio performing consistently? Is it up, down? Is it erratic? Like what's happening with our portfolio? So this is really just a question of, but for me, it's how much of the money are we putting in the bank relative to how much we're charging off? It's a simple calculation. And that's why I like it. I mean, I definitely lean on simple. Sometimes I can get a little caught up in the wiring and go deep on the numbers. And I'm all the time trying to find ways to help dealers better visualize what's happening in their business. So that's part of why we go there. But in this case, let's go simple and just kind of look at the comparison of those things. Is it going in the bank or is it getting charged off? Right. And so forget interest. We're not talking about interest. We're not talking about late fees. We're not talking about recovery of repos. We're talking about dollars in the portfolio, principal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of pieces that are involved in that.
But, there'll be more to come on this. We'll continue to bring this kind of number periodically. And so in the meantime, we appreciate folks tuning in and spend some time with us, and look for. All
right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. It's Friday. We'll be back again on Wednesday after our certification course. So hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend. Tax money's rolling in. I hope you guys have a really big weekend. Have a great day, and we will see you on Wednesday.